Hey, friend. Hey, what is going on with you today, child? Yeah, I voted for her. Just a reminder that all this foolishness that's going on with this presidency ain't my fault. Please go collect your "I voted for her" t-shirts, honey. Today, y'all, we gonna have a special guest. Like none other than Diamond Stylz. Yes, honey, the founder and creator of Marsha's Plate, honey, my boss. Yes, honey, the activist, the musician, award winner, the recognized. Praise the Lord. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, girl, hey.
Hey.
What's going on? Now, real quick rundown, honey, because the people know your face, honey. The people know your name. But where are you from, Diamond? Give the people a little background.
I am originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. I grew up there mostly and Boston, went to college in Mississippi, and now I live and I've been here for about 17 years, Houston.
Okay, so we went from the Midwest, Indianapolis.
Yes.
We went to
Boston,
the
Massachusetts.
Boston, which is the North. That's New England.
Uh-huh.
And then we went down south to Mississippi.
Yeah, where my older now ancestors are from.
Oh, that's interesting. So did you go to Mississippi knowing that, knowing that your peoples was from there?
Yes, yes, yeah. That's where my grandmother was born, my great grandmother, my great grandfather, everybody, Mississippi folks.
Why so much moving around when you were younger?
My mother was chasing love, and so when we were in Indianapolis, she fell in love with somebody, and he moved to Boston. So she moved to Boston. Chase, baby, you know how you do when you in love and young.
Oh wow.
And so we moved to Boston, and then I actually spent a few summers in California too because my dad was in California, San Diego, California. So there was that. Then yeah, then my mom got, because of that man she was chasing, got addicted to drugs. They both got addicted to drugs, so they was now chasing. It was the early '90s, right smack in the middle of the crack epidemic. So they got caught up in addiction, and we were moving around because of that, because of the instability. My mom started using drugs in '91, and she was never abusive. It just was neglectful. We would wake up and the TV so we would wake up and the lights are off. We would, you get what I'm saying? It was a gradual decline. There's only been two sources of trauma in my life: being a queer person, and my mother's addiction. Like those are the two. When it comes to my life story, those were the two sources of trauma, and so yeah, it was difficult, but by the time I was 10, my mother had instilled in me a lot of confidence. She instilled in me the value of education. Instilled in me the value of empathy when it comes to other people. And she just taught me so much that by the time I was 10, I just had some of my core values that I would need later on in my adulthood. So she had already done that. So by the time we get to my teenage years, that's when the queer trauma started. It wasn't, yes, it was neglectful, and I end up going into a group home, and I need to end up, even years later, getting custody of my own brother when I was 21. Um, I, it led to certain things, but it led to me just growing up fast and but I still had the values that she taught me that I still live with today. Survival skills. Like she was the first person to teach me about colorism. She didn't call it colorism, but she is the first one to kind of let me know what the concept of it is and what is it about when we talk about white supremacy, when we talk about things, feminism. She didn't call them these things because she wasn't she didn't go to college, she didn't graduate from 10th grade, but because of her um, just her lived experience, she talked to me in ways that showed concepts of feminism, concepts of white supremacy, concepts of how racism works, how sexism works, how all these systems work in her way.
So, how was it being a queer child and being custody of the state?
Oh gosh, it was a double-edged sword. You know, outside of the group home, it was very, that was something people would use to kind of shame you, like, oh, you in this kind of guardian home, so your parents threw you away, abandoned you. People would try to use it as a source to kind of tease you because you're a kid with living in this group home. So whatever they think was the issue when it comes to you, they would kind of use that to tease you. But inside the group home, I it was two things that was going on that was in my benefit. I was a very bright child. I was very smart and mature. Um, and this can be negative, but I feel like it can kind of help you in certain situations. I was very manipulative. I knew how to manipulate the boys in the house who was my peers, and I also knew how to manipulate the staff members to get what I want because I knew how to control the boys and they, for example, like if they wanted the staff members wanted a relaxed night, they would have to come to me and say, hey, can you make sure everybody is cool and chill? And I would make sure everybody is cool and chill because I'm the leader. But I led in a way almost kind of like a regular alpha male, but with a feminine energy. And so it taught me how to maneuver in many situations and how to have the gift of gab with men that will definitely come later in my work later on.
Wow, wow. You was manipulating men and you learned how to manipulate men in the group home?
Yeah, adults. It's not just men. There was women staff members, but manipulate in a sense, not where I'm consciously uh, pushing you to do what I want you to do, however that may be. And so, yeah, it could be many things. I've been in situations where I made the whole group home run away because you're being an asshole to me and you didn't get me what I wanted. I made the whole everybody run away for the whole weekend. And so now you gotta you gotta call the police, you gotta do all this paperwork and do way more work than you needed to do. But hey.
Wow, wow. Were you identifying as trans when you were in a group home?
Yes, yes. Because when I was living with my mom, being her oldest son, I feel like if I would have stayed with her, I would have postponed my transition because I wouldn't until I was grown, because I wouldn't have want to shame my mother. In the group home, I didn't care about none of them people. I can do what I want. This is what I want to do. But in my house, I know that I would have been very conscious because my mother was in the beginning a good mother. I would have been very conscious about not shaming her because she was a single mother. And so she already had the pressure of you raising these boys by yourself and without a father figure and all this kind of stuff. I wouldn't to want to shame her in any kind of way, but her actually, because she was this perfect mother, her getting on drugs kind of put a humanity on her. Do you see what I'm saying? Where before she was like this perfect mother that was that allowed me to romanticize her, but her drug addiction made her more human, and that humanity gave me also a little bit more freedom to be able to do what I want, because you can't judge me if you out here smoking crack and losing houses for us and being crazy with drugs. You ain't worried about shaming me as your child being a crackhead out here. So why I need to worry about you? So it opened me up to not seeing her as perfect, but seeing her as human, where she's somebody that can make mistakes. Now, as a 44-year-old woman, I can say that more eloquently. But when I was in my teens, it allowed me to be angry at her. Like, this out here going crazy, I could do what I want to do. Do you see what I'm saying? So it would make me more apt to be able to be more free from her. And then being in a group home made me not have to have consequences.
I took it. I took it. It makes complete sense to me, and I think that is a reason why we do see a lot of the kids who are in placement A lot of the kids who don't live with their biological parents tend to be more comfortable coming out and living in their truth. But how did your mom react when she found out, and how did she find out?
My grandmother told her. So my mother had went to prison. One of the reasons why I went to the group home, my mother got locked up for possession charge, and so I was staying with my mom, with my grandma, and my grandmother. I started to try to transition. Well, I wasn't really. I was ease it out instead of just bam that girl. I wanted to kind of ease it on them. So when I was easing it on them, my more homophobic grandmother was like, "Oh, you can't be in my house with that agate stuff." So she
Gotcha.
literally put me out when I was 12, and I had to sleep in a car for like a month homeless because my grandmother kicked me out because I was queer. And so in that moment, my my grandmother told my mother that I kicked him out because he was dressing like a girl in my house, and you can't do that in my house. And so she was still in prison. And so I ended up going to the group home. And when she got out of the group home, that's when she got to see me, and I told her that I was gonna try to transition. I already had the mindset to transition. I just when I went to the group home and she had done what she did, it was just that just broke me open. I was like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And so I went to where she was staying, and I went and got dressed in the bathroom, and she was in the living room. I got dressed and then came out as Diamond. And she said, and my mom said, well, damn, you kind of look like me. She said, well, at least you don't look like no football player. You're kind of pretty. So I guess it is what it is. And so once you get your mom, for me, once you get your mom's approval, child, I definitely don't care about nobody else. I came out of her, so I definitely don't care about nobody else. So that's how she reacted.
Wow. How did your brothers react?
So my youngest brother, he doesn't know anybody but Diamond because I was the only child for many, many years. So by the time I transitioned when he was like 5. So he knows me a little bit before I was Diamond, but he was 5 when I transitioned. Um, so now my middle brother, we had some we had issues once we got older. When he was younger, so I transitioned in '94, so he would have been like 8 or 9, and so in that time, it was no issue. We were all good. When he gets in his like adulthood, 18, 19-ish, he started to be weird about it. And we stopped talking. We were estranged for like 10 years because I don't play that. I don't play misgendering. I'm zero tolerance with it. So I didn't talk to him for like 10 years. And then when my mom passed, um, we were kind of forced to talk to each other.
What do you think changed? Do you think it was outside influences?
I do think it was outside influences because in my face, I didn't know that it was happening. In my face, he acted like my little brother. I mean, when he would be around me, he would lay on my lap and exactly how he was when he was a little boy. He would be like that in my face. So I didn't know what was going on until my youngest brother said, Diamond, that ninja, when you are not around, he talk hella stuff. He don't use your right pronouns. He don't use your name. Da 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 da. But in your face, he all good. So the next time I saw him, I confronted him about it and was like, "Yo, what is going on with you disrespecting me when I'm not around? I'm not somebody who forces you to accept me. I just won't be around you." And so he was like, he didn't kind of really address it. He just was like, well, if you don't want to be around me, you ain't got to be around me. And I was like, oh, great, cool. But then when he went to jail, and he sent me a letter, and it's crazy. It was like a 1-page letter. And the first half of the letter said, I'm never going to accept you as Diamond. I am never going to acknowledge you as my sister. I'm never going to accept any of that. And then the next half of the letter said, but we still family. Can you send me some commissary money? And so, of course, I said the first part is all I needed to know, and I didn't talk to him. That's when it started. I didn't talk to him anymore since that. And then when my mom passed and we were forced to kind of engage, he apologized and he said one of the reasons that he didn't grasp it. He says, "I thought you were trying to erase my big brother." And I said, "What do you mean? I never told you that you had to erase what we had in the past. I've never been that type of person who didn't acknowledge my past. I'm proud of my past. It colors who I am today." And so he was like, "Well, you were my protector when I was young. You were I taught both of my brothers how to read. I taught both of my brothers, I literally everything about their from them being five. I changed their diapers. I helped my mom raise them, and for him, he felt like I was erasing. He just felt like I was erasing it, and I was like, when have I ever told you to do that? He was like, you never told me to do that, but this whole big change made me feel that. I said, no, I want you to have those memories. I have those memories too, but I want you to understand that this is a radical self-love for me. And so I didn't transition to erase my past. I transitioned to honor myself. And so if you want to be in my life, you got to accept my past is my past and this is who I am now. And if you can't be in my life. I just can't do it. And so we have actually grown a lot in this past 5 years. My mom passed in 2020, and we have just grown a lot. Like we literally are on great terms now.
I love that stuff. I love that. I love that full circle moment, and I can relate. A lot of us trans people who have siblings and family and people we grew up with, they do feel that way. I've had personal conversations with people who feel like I've attempted to erase my boy upbringing or my boy self or my boy experience, when that's definitely not the case. I mean, that's the whole point of me considering myself trans and being openly trans, so that I've had an experience as a boy. So what did you study in college, Diamond?
Psychology. I got a degree in psychology, just like you. My politics is not, education is not at the forefront of my identity. So I let people brag about degrees and da 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 da. But just know when on the applications, when you go talk to my school, honey, my degree is there.
So what made you want to specialize in psychology? Because like you said, that's not at the forefront of your public persona.
Well, it definitely is involved in my work, but I wanted to go into mass communications. That was my original major when I was a freshman, but particularly broadcast production. But my professor said, "Now I'll teach you what you need to know, but this is 2000." And he said, "Hey, I'm going to let you know that this is a competitive arena, even behind the scenes." Because I thought if I did broadcast production and was behind the scenes, I would be like, you get what I'm saying? It would be kind of like safe for me as a trans woman. And he was like, "Nah, baby, this is way more competitive than you think it's going to be. And I can teach you what you need to know, but you might want to go into something that is more broad." And yeah, I switched my major.
Now, we know you as artist, musician, activist, content creator, but you said that psychology comes into play in your work. How so?
Everything. When anytime I am engaging and managing groups of people, I'm a teacher, how I'm able to educate, or how I'm able to convey my message to them in ways that are trauma informed, all of that, all my psychology training, therapy, and all that kind of stuff, some type of data research, how I do research, all that.
You said that you honor yourself by being trans. How so? What do you mean by that?
So, yes. So, I don't have negative ass memories of my boyhood. I don't have a boyhood that was filled with self hate. Did I have bullies? Did I have people calling me the F slur? Did I have the normal trauma of a queer child? Absolutely. But once I got old enough to think and control what I wear and control what I do, I was not going to live my life in a freaking closet. I wasn't going to live my life navigating this world in a way that wasn't comfortable for me. I knew what would be comfortable for me. So in order for me to navigate this world with the radical self-love that I have to be who I am, I had to make this decision for myself. I had to be able to do this. This is something that once I knew that it was possible, it was about it was about honoring what I needed to do to be in this world in a way that was comfortable for me. And so it was no longer about my mom. It was no longer about all the titles that everybody was trying to train me to be a man, a big brother, a blah, blah, blah. This is a radical self love of myself. And whatever consequences come with it, that's great. I'm willing to accept those. But this is me. This is how I want to navigate the world. This is my body. This is my destiny. And yeah, it was honoring myself.
What inspired you to be trans? Do you feel like you were innately trans? Do you feel like you were born trans?
Yeah. Like anybody else, I was born and I was assigned male at birth, but I feel like that there is a biological incongruency that is meant to be. There is a environmental and a natural component. I think it's all these combined things. I'm not somebody who think nature versus nurture. Your environment created, your nature created. I think it all created it. The nature and the environment that I was in, and it allowed me to become who I am. I wasn't in some crazy situation where I would be abused and beat for who I was. I was in a situation where people around me loved me and praised me. And not just in my home, outside of my home. They allowed me to think for myself. They allowed me to read. They allowed me to um, be free. And so, and free in loving who I am and acknowledging my brain and acknowledging what I want and what I didn't want. And so, because of that, now my mom will tell you she didn't want me to be trans, but her instilling in me that I am the power, I am the force that powers and controls my destiny. Like nobody, this is your life. You get to make these decisions. That empowerment allowed me to choose this life for myself. Did she want it? No. She wanted a regular ass boy that's having grandkids getting married to a cis woman. but but she instilled in me to control my own life. And so that's what I did.
Mm. Honey, I don't blame her not wanting her child to be trans. I don't think most of our parents
Nobody did.
wanted us to be trans. I know for me, even being trans, I wouldn't want my child to be trans just knowing the struggle of having a trans identity. When did you start transitioning? Like at what point in your life?
94. The summer of 94, between junior high and high school. People didn't even know what a transsexual was. And this might be my location. I was in Indianapolis. I mean, I'm pretty sure some dudes in New York may have ran across a bunch of trans women, but in Indianapolis, you tell a dude you're a transsexual, which was the word back then. You tell a dude you're transsexual, he don't even know what the hell that is. He doesn't know what it is. And so I think when you get to the 2000s, because of stuff like Jerry Springer and different movies, Crying Game, and just a certain level of conversation, I wouldn't say it was as mainstream as we see today, but it was a little bit more. You get Candace Kane on prime time. You get these different visibility moments that were growing. Even when we get to Isis King and Jayla Sims, there's this historical moments. Even Laverne Cox when she first started with Diddy, Jerry Springer, even on to like the more sophisticated ones like Oprah and Jenny Jones and all those kind of things. And so y'all had a little bit more visibility than we did in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time I came along, we already had you and Teak Milan, for example, outside of the people that you already named, like just community, people who were tangible or who feel tangible to us. And I think that that's a huge part of your brand. And speaking of your brand, because your brand is heavily tied to activism, whether it's pro feminism, whether it's pro black, whether it's pro people of color, political, educating people, awareness. What the hell made you decide to want to get involved in social justice, Diamond Stylz?
I really didn't have a choice. I mean, you don't have a choice but to be in it. Like you, even I sued my high school in 1999 and won because they wouldn't let me go to the prom in a gown. And so they told me that I was going to lose, but I sued them and won. And so it wasn't because I was trying to be an activist. I was trying to go to school and sue them and try to be this kind of, social justice warrior. No, I was just high schooler trying to go to the prom. And so, when you tell me I can't go and I don't have any options, then my English teacher whispers in my ear, "Go to the ACLU." The ball just kind of snowballed into I'm just trying to be who I am and then fight back against your discrimination. And so it wasn't I'm trying to be an activist. It was just I'm trying to get treated fairly. That's what I was trying to do. And in that process, I become this kind of representation, not only of myself, but of a community that is in the fight right then. And so then I go to Jackson State. There had never been a trans woman to go to Jackson State openly. And so them putting me in a boys' dorm and I'm living my truth as a woman and they got me in a boys' dorm. And so I'm not trying to be this ambassador or trying to be this activist, but it puts me in this situation where I have to be forced to be because of who I am and not because I want to. I didn't consciously start to be kind of like this organizer and activist until I got in my 30s. And so you know, I don't feel like it was just a conscious choice. I felt like I was just kind of just living, and in living life as a queer person, you're going to be constantly fighting battles to be treated fairly, to be seen, to be heard, and that just comes with the territory.
I don't think a lot of people know that about your history, Diamond. I think that a lot of your audience aren't aware that you were one of the first trans kids to make headlines.
Yeah, I was in the Jet magazine. I was in the Ebony in the '90s.
What was their reasoning for not letting you wear what you wanted to wear at the prom?
So I am a YouTuber, so I tell this story on my YouTube in full detail. We don't have enough time for that, but the video is called Pisces Season because it was around my birthday and stuff like that. So anyway, to make a long story short, I like I said, I eased my transition up on them. And so because I started transitioning before my freshman year, by the time I get to my senior year, I done already been at the school as a girl for years at this point. But because I eased it on them, I'm popping hormone pills, titties growing slowly. The same way the girl's boobs is growing, mine is growing at the same pace. And so it's slowly going. So by the time I get to my senior year, nobody had said anything to me. Nobody had said, "No, you cannot dress like that." No. Because I started with little white, little French tips, nudes. Then I went to something. By the time I get to my senior year, everything's done. But I ease it up on them so much so where it's not just like, "Oh, I'm coming as a boy, and then bam, I'm a girl. I got a wig and a dress on." I never did it like that. I slowly grew my hair out. And also, this is the 90s. People weren't wearing wigs. And I'm in Indiana, you can't wear makeup because it's going to get you clocked. Wig and makeup get you clocked. Big old implants get you clocked because girls wasn't doing that. Cis girls wasn't doing that in the 90s. They were doing roller wraps, French rolls. They was doing their own hair. So you had to be that kind of girl if you wanted to pass. And so I grew my hair out. You know what I'm saying? I just did it in a way that was so smooth. So by the time I get to my senior year, and they know that I'm going to the prom, she tells me I can't go to the prom 2 days before the prom happens. 2 days. So the prom is like the 7th. She tells me on the 5th. So in the policy of the school, it said you cannot dress, the dress code was you cannot dress in a way that disrupts the educational process. But the problem with that is the prom ain't freaking educational. It is a dance totally away from school after school hours. So that's that's what me and the ACLU brought the case, because it's not going to disrupt the educational process. I literally had enough credits to where I was already graduated. I graduated a semester before, so I had already done what I needed to do to graduate. I just wanted to participate in this school extracurricular activity, and so this really wasn't it wasn't like it was a classroom. And then you're being hypocritical. You don't tell me 2 days before when I had already been going to school as a girl and you ain't said nothing to me. So it makes it seem like you're just targeting me just to be targeting me, which she was.
Honey, I think they were scared that you was going to win prom queen. That's what I'm thinking. And no, you're absolutely right about the 90s. I remember being from here, being from the DMV when I was growing up. For the girls in the 90s, while my mom and her friends and stuff, it was a thing where, like, if you wore makeup, like foundation, like something to cover your whole face, that was considered unattractive. You was considered like, you wasn't a bad bitch if you couldn't walk outside barefaced and turn heads.
Especially as a trans girl.
Honey, and it still be giving that now, honey. The girls be still trying to play on my shadows time. Honey, y'all better leave my goatee alone. Honey. Diamond Stylz may have been one of the first queer kids to protest their rights in school, but she was far from the last. A trailblazer in many ways, setting the stage for many queer kids to fight for their own rights. Like, trans people weren't a thing in the 90s, weren't a popular thing. How in the hell did you get even introduced to this concept, to this idea, or these people? Or how did you find out that these people actually exist? Or did you always feel alone?
So initially I felt alone, but when I transitioned, there was another one of my best friends, Ty, another girl. I didn't come out alone. Me and her was in the group home together, and we both transitioned together. And so I have always had a friend girl who was trans, even in the beginning of my transition. But prior to me going to the group home, I told you I was already trying to do it. What happened was I already felt disconnected from being a boy, like growing into a man and all that kind of. I already felt that. I just didn't know how I could do it. I didn't know how I could do it. Like, I didn't know about hormones. I didn't know about, even, I wasn't even thinking about surgeries. I didn't know about stuff. So how can I if initially it was just, how can I change how I dress and, just actually socially transitioning to just living my life as a girl. And there was a couple of things that happened. One thing, younger, it is way young. I want to say like 6 years old. My mom was walking down the street and she came upon a drag queen. Her name was Foxy Roxy. And I had never seen a drag queen before. And she comes up, she's in a gown, like a drag queen. Gown, sparkles, rhinestones, big hair, blah, 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 blah. But her voice sounded deep. Like a boy. And I looked at her and I was sitting with my mom and she was talking to my mom very friendly, like my mom knew her and I had never met her before. So how you know my mama? And I'm thinking like, how you know her? How y'all know each other? And so my mother was covering up my eyes. She kept covering up my eyes and I kept asking questions. And I kept asking questions about like, why you look like a girl but sound like a boy? And my mother is like, hush, 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 hush. And she's just talking to my mom, just sweet. And they just talking really, really nice. And so that was the first time I seen somebody that was kind of gender bending. Now, of course, I'd have seen Prince. I'd have seen Boy George. I'd have seen, even Michael Jackson had some queerness about him to me. Luther Vandross, even though he wasn't out, I still read him as a queer man. You know what I'm saying? Then we had, and I know he's not gay, but I just read him when I was younger as a queer man. Arsenio Hall. I read these people. I read these people as queer people, even if they weren't out or weren't. It just was something queer. It was just something queer about them. And so I didn't know what initially. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know, how I didn't know anything other than I knew gay because people was already calling me, you know, the F word, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know how they do.
even though wasn't even having sex yet.
You
Um,
know.
and so I remember going sneaking into the gay club at like 12. And wasn't supposed to be there. And I remember going into the gay club, and it was the most magical. It reminded me of the Wizard of Oz when Dorothy go and it's black and white and then it turns into color. That's what it felt like. It was the first time that because I grew up in the church, I was dancing in there, spinning and twirling and just being gay as heck. And I remember in my brain saying, if this is what gay is, I don't want to be anything else for the rest of my life. I don't want to be anything else. If these people in this club is gay and this is what gay is, I don't want to ever not be gay. I remember I used to be shamed and praying about not to be gay because the Bible said don't be gay. And so, I don't want to go to hell like Sodom and Gomorrah, blah, 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 blah. I remember being a little kid getting taught that and then trying to pray the gay away. But then once I went to that gay club and found my gay friends, I was like, oh, I'll never want to not be gay. Then you start to see the little sections. Start seeing the little section of types of people. And then I remember being on a bus stop and seeing these two girls. And I thought initially that they were sister girls, but then I started hearing them deep ass voices. And I was like, what's going on? Like, oh my God, I think these is boys. And I was a kid. I was like 12. And I was like, oh, I think these is boys. Oh my God, they living as girls. And I'm like, oh my God. So I started going to the club that they said that they would go to. So I went to, not the first club I went to, but I went to another club that had more of the girls. And I was like, oh, so it's another type. Oh, that is me. That is me. That because I didn't ever feel like a butch queen. I never felt like them. I never was attracted to them. I wanted the straight boys at my school. I did not want the butch queens that were trying to holler at me at the gay club. No. I'm a woman. You're a woman. Let's be women. I was never that. So once I realized that, boom, I tell me and my homegirl, we was like, yeah, we about to do this. And then we meet this other girl named Strabella. She was a year younger than us, but she was with her mom, but her mom was allowing her to be trans.
Shut the fuck up. Was she black?
Yes. And so her mom, it was her only child, and her mother couldn't have any more kids. And she let Bella like literally dress up and da 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 da. So it was like, oh, so all three of us started to, and then there was a girl who was a 1 year older than us who had broke up like one of the schools, like because she was transitioning, but they expelled her from Forest Manor. Her name was Zori. So it was like four of us that was kind of like all coming out at the same time. Me and my homegirl was the same age. Bella was a year younger and Zori was a year older. So we all was coming up. And there was another girl named Stacia who was like in her early 20s when she transitioned. So she was already breaking it up too, but we were kind of just doing different stuff in the city. So it was like all of us kind of wearing it out all at one time. And so, yeah, and I never turned back.
Ow! I could definitely relate. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. I don't think anybody denies that the trans people from your era and beyond and before, I don't think anybody questions your authenticity as trans people, right? However, in this day and age, that has become a topic amongst trans people and outside of the trans community. The authenticity of transness. Do you think it is possible for, especially in this day and age, do you think it is possible for people to transition or identify as trans but not be innately trans? It not be genuine?
Absolutely. The example that I kind of give people is like if you go to a high school cafeteria and you are a young, impressionable kid and you go into the cafeteria and the thugs is at this table, the nerdy boys is at this table, the golf is at this table, and da 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 da. They kind of in their sections, and then you go to the thugs and they being mean to you, so you don't feel welcome there. You go to the gays, they don't feel you don't feel welcome there. You go to the nerdy, oh, you don't feel good enough because they may be a little bit too smart for you, and so you go over to the golf, and that one person makes you feel lovely. And then you go into the golf, and now you're running around with black lipstick and black hair and black trench coat. You could because you are impressionable at that age, you could go down a road that is not actually authentically you. You could be in the ball scene, and because you just so happen to be pretty when you dress up, people can influence you to be a girl. Because you just so happen to, when you get done up, you could be like Alonzo, who identifies as a boy, but you just naturally pretty. And then everybody is like, get titties, girl, walk body, walk face, walk da 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 da. And then you in this community that is like finally accepting you. I can see somebody going down that road, especially if they're helping you fund it and they're helping you, they're moving you along. I can see somebody going down the road. Also, um, it's many directions. It's many ways that people can get caught up into something, and you just got to do a U-turn and turn around. And sometimes you go further so far in a way that you might do some things that are irreversible. There are some things, but these transitioners are like 1% of our
Of
population.
like 1% of 1%.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of people that are making this decision all willy nilly and then turning back around. But it is possible. I just don't think it's as common as people try to make. But what if they're making the wrong decisions? It's just not as common as that. Ain't nobody choosing this life, child. We got the whole world against us. We was a subculture in a subculture. Ain't nobody voluntarily being pigeonholed as this oddity that can be a barrier of love, be a barrier of trust, be a barrier of access to resources, be a barrier to so many things. Ain't nobody doing that without thinking about it and without generally without being for sure. So yeah, there's some people that are that impressionable, but many of us are not. Many of us know what's going on.
Very true. Very, very true. Very true. I questioned my own transition, and it took me a time. It took me time to really accept myself as a trans woman because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't falling into that gray area because I was witnessing other people fall into that gray area. And for me, and the common example is ballroom because I grew up in ballroom. So I was seeing a lot of the girls, like you said, literally being um, coerced or coaxed or even funded. With me being a controversial voice and with Marsha's plate being such a beloved entity, but amongst the community, what the hell made you decide to add Bre Starr?
You just came with a little bit more spice and I felt like I bring to the table. And so I wanted to bring somebody who is younger than me, who's gonna have that's I wanted somebody I wanted us all to represent different coasts. I'm in the South, you on the East Coast. LJ, being a trans masculine, is on the Pacific Northwest. And so we all are in different parts and experience in different parts of the country. And I felt like listening to some of your stuff that your opinion was valuable. I feel like even if it's something that I disagree with, it's something that we can go back and forth, and I can either push you on, you push me on, and we can go back and forth and you'd be like, oh, and I think intellectually people, if you're an intellectual, you're not somebody that thinks you knows everything, and you can say, maybe you're right. And I think you are somebody who doesn't have a problem with, if somebody pushes you and give you another way to think about it, you say, oh, I didn't even think about that. And I think people, instead of saying no and then just kind of being stuck in that kind of, I think that's a level of stupidity, and I don't think you have that. I think that you are intelligent enough that when somebody presents you with valid information and valid arguments, you're intelligent enough to say, yeah, I didn't know that, or I didn't. And I think I need people who are like that on the show. I think Jay is like that a little bit. Sometimes you got to argue with Jay, but I think we all can bring something to the table that's different, to where we're not just sitting there agreeing all the time, most of the time. But at least even when we do agree, we can bring another little flavor and perspective. And I think that's why I wanted to bring you on, because you have that kind of strong mindset, and I like people like that.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to be seen in that way. I'm very much a scientist. I'm very much, you introduce new information to me and I'm going to have to reevaluate my findings. You know what I mean? And that's how I deal with humanity. I know that humanity is so broad that it would be foolish for me to think that I know everything. I know that my experience is limited. I know that I have the experience of a black trans femme person, and even though our identities can be seen as a bit unconventional and outside of the box, we still have our own perspectives. We still have our own biases based on our experiences. You know what I mean? So I think, like you said, I have to surround myself with people who are strong willed, but are still willing to learn, still open.
Or say, I don't know. I think that enough people need to say, I don't know, instead of adding shit that don't even make sense to the narrative. And even just based on the beginning of the podcast. So, we brought you on and it was a show already. We were already, we had already hit 1 million views. In 2016, they started talking about trans people. But when they were talking about trans people, it was white trans people. They were talking about bathroom bills. And as a black trans woman who has been homeless, who has been in sex work, who has been in so many different arenas in life, there was way more harsher and more important issues that black trans women were dealing with, when it comes to housing insecurity, when it comes to discrimination at work, when it comes to healthcare access and things that we need for our transition. So many things were way more important. If we talking about that versus bathroom, baby, if you give me a place to live, I piss on the tree. You ain't got to worry about me being in the bathroom. You get what I'm saying? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. And it was the first of its kind. There was no podcast that was led by trans people at the time. And so I was, especially black ones. And so I was like, yo, let me at first, the first idea was going to be 3 plus size black trans women, a dark skinned one, a brown one, and me, the light skinned one. It was going to be all the shades. It was going to be 3 tons of fun. It was going to be that. But the 2 girls that I picked, that one of them was going through financial situations and she had to move. And then the other one, when I brought another girl on who was younger, she was insecure. We were supposed to do a photo shoot and she was insecure because the other girl was younger and smaller and was like, oh, you need to wait till I lose some weight. And I was like, girl, we trying to launch. This was in April. We trying to launch in July and your ass ain't even ready. You talk about you going to lose weight. If you was going to lose weight, you would have been lose weight. But I'm not waiting. I'm not about to birth my baby. Postpone the birth of my creation because you're trying to lose weight. So I end up bringing a trans man on, which was not my initial idea, but I brought him on, and him and the other girl started dating. And so we get to explore their relationship actually on air. So that makes us grow. That's shout out to Mia and Z. And it just grows into something that I couldn't have even planned. And then when they left because they wanted to do other stuff, I brought in Jay, and then I brought in you, and it just has been an amazing journey. And this we are on our 7th year, and I come from a YouTube girly. I'm one of the first black trans people to become YouTube partner when you had to be invited to be a YouTube partner. And I come from that era. So going into podcasting, it just has been a whole different journey. And so it has freed me. It is my business, and I'm able to, put our messages out. So many, we have been showcased in colleges, Stanford, Syracuse, Columbia, Wake Forest. We have been a tool of education, and that is what I want it to be. Not just a messy telling the news, telling the tea, entertainment. No, I wanted us to be a little bit more elevated in regards to what we talk about and how people can use us.
Yes, honey. Marsha's plate is very elevated, but yes, I am very messy. I do bring a messy element to it, honey. No shade, honey. It's just for entertainment purposes. It's all with the pure intent to get our messages out and to educate the people and make the people aware. Thank you for sharing that. Of course, I may not say this enough, but I feel honored to even be a part of Marsha's plate. It is definitely trans history. It's definitely Black history, and I think we're still creating both of those things as episodes air. Honey, new episodes every week available on all streaming platforms. Marsha's Plate podcast, honey. I wanted to start the discussion of bottom surgery, bottom dysphoria. And I've been hoping that trans people who I've had private conversations with, who have had bottom surgery would speak more openly about it. What are your feelings on trans people and bottom surgery? Because I personally feel like it's a necessary conversation for us to have.
I don't know if it's necessary for me to have. I can tell because I'm not somebody who is in need or in desire of bottom surgery. Um, but my mindset has always been I am comfortable with my body. I have created a body that is luscious, is soft, it's what I want it to be. Because of my transition, I feel like I have healed my gender dysphoria. I'm not saying that it doesn't come up at all anymore, but it's very, very rare that I have like moments of feeling like, ooh, dysphoric moments. I have gotten my body where I want it to be. I call myself a non-op trans woman because I don't want that. I have gotten comfortable where I am, and I don't feel like that completes me. I am complete where I'm at now. I don't feel like that completes me. I feel like that's just not for me. Whoever it's for, I think that's amazing. But for me, I am comfortable with where my body is right now. I am very, very comfortable, and I've been comfortable for a very, very long time. And I want a partner who is comfortable with it. I like the uniqueness of my queer body. I have a queer woman's body, queer physically, where it is, you got a lot going on at the top. I think that that's unique. I think that that sets me apart from, other women. And I'm proud to be a trans woman. I am proud to be a trans woman. I am proud of that. I am not trying to assimilate into cis womanhood. I'm not trying to take over. To push them out, replace any of that foolishness. I'm not trying to do that. I am trying to be the uniqueness of my being. I appreciate it. Other people appreciate it. I love it. And so where I have gotten my body to, the changes that I have made, I am comfortable with those, and I've been comfortable with them for a very, very long time. And so it's not for me.
At the end of the day, that's what it should be for all of us, getting comfortable in our own body, having the autonomy to live in our truth and it be okay regardless of what decisions we make with our own bodies. And that is for everybody.
That's what they're attacking. They're attacking our body sovereignty. They are attacking when it comes to the rollback of Roe v. Wade. When we talk about parents supporting their children and allowing them to transition, and in collaboration with the doctors and the medical profession, and them trying to come in and overstep their boundaries and stop the parents of trans children from helping them live an authentic life. When it comes to us and people trying to stop us from not being affirmed in our documents and getting access to healthcare to be able to do these life-changing things, that is all about body sovereignty. Who we want to put our body into, all of those things, all of those things is about body sovereignty and who we are allowed, what we are allowed to do with our body, and who we are allowed to love and become one. So I think that is the core of some of the problems, that sovereignty that they're trying to take away from us. That's what's under attack now.
And again, I think these conversations are necessary because the real conversation is body sovereignty. And that's the real conversation, because it affects more than just trans people. If you think that they're going to take away our rights to decorate our bodies, to present our bodies, to display our bodies how we want without hurting other people, if you think that they're going to take away our rights and it ends, absolutely not. Those goth kids that she talked about before, honey, baby, we remember not long ago they was being attacked and being accused of being the school shooters.
So lean into talking to your elders and talking to people older than you, talking to people who have survived a time when we didn't have all these advancements. We survived when we didn't have the legal document changes, and it was trans people in the 70s that didn't have none of the advancements that we have. And were they life hard? Absolutely, but there's some of them that are still living now. We have survived these things. We have survived these times. So we lean into talking to our elders, talking to people who have lived through a different time than yours when we didn't have this. That doesn't mean we're going back. It means that they can give you information on how to survive if stuff does go back. Then older people, we need to lean into our young people, because they have just a different way of thinking about things, because we have paved a way for them to be more free. And sometimes that freedom gives them a vision of the future that's a little bit better than ours, because we still kind of stuck in where we used to be, where we used to live. I think about that with non-binary people. I'm a binary trans woman, and that's not going to change. I'm going to be fish, I'm going to be femme, I'm going to be prim, I'm going to be a lady. I'm a binary trans woman, but I see the power in allowing them binary people. What they're trying to do is letting people out of the box that is masculinity and femininity. You can do whatever the you want to do. And while I'm okay with this feminine presentation, there might be somebody else coming along younger than me that might want to shake it up a little bit. And we know how back in the day people were shaking it up. They might want to shake it up in a kind of different way that I might not understand, but I don't need to understand them. They need, just like people didn't understand me, they need to just have the freedom to be able to do what they need to do. So I need to lean into listening to the young folks, because they're going to have a different vision of what they can be, of what this world can be, than I have, because of my lived experience. It may limit what I can see our vision to be. So lean into your elders, because we got some shit to teach you. And lean into the young people, because they're going to have a different vision. We don't get to a better place without the young people's vision. And still fight. I know we're taking a break, and we're 92%, and we don't want to, y'all pick this clown but we still have to fight. We still have to fight in the sense of bringing each other together. So when it's time, and we have our community to lean on.
Diamond, my love, thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for the time that you give in my life in general. Thank you for being a big sister. Thank you for advocating for us. Thank you for educating all of us. All of her links are in the description of this video, honey. Thank you, Diamond, honey. Peace, love, and blessings to all of y'all.